2024. And they come and say, why was my vote stolen? This is a disillusioned generation that you are creating. Young people who had participated in the democratic process with vigor. They note that in a very large number of constituencies, there are polling stations where the number of votes said to have been polled for the National Assembly is significantly higher than the number of votes polled at the same polling station for the Provincial Assembly. Now you all know, when you walk into a polling station, every voter is handed 2 ballot papers. Each polling station serves as a polling station both for the National Assembly and for the Regional Provincial Assembly. So every voter is handed 2 ballot papers, one for the National Assembly and one for the Provincial Assembly. And invariably, everywhere, the voter will cast both the votes. So when you look at polling stations in general, you discover, and they've noted this, that the number of votes polled at a particular polling station for the National Assembly is identical to the number of votes polled at that polling station for the Provincial Assembly. Now, what has happened in about 100 constituencies here is as follows. That within the constituency, in each constituency for the National Assembly, there are roughly 430, 440 polling stations. These are large constituencies. So in these constituencies, they've noticed that out of, let us say, the 436 polling stations, the number of votes polled for the National Assembly and the number of votes polled for the Provincial Assembly are identical at 300 polling stations. But then you have 136 polling stations where the number of votes polled for the National Assembly display a turnout at that polling station of 90% or above, 95%. But at the same polling station, the turnout for the Provincial Assembly is 39%, 38%. Now this is absurd. So for 300 polling stations in the same constituency, the turnout for the National Assembly and the turnout for the Provincial Assembly is identical. But for 136 polling stations, the turnout for the National Assembly is 95% and the turnout for the Provincial Assembly is 39%. That is the kind of discrepancy. You just need to look at these results and you can tell immediately that these 100 constituencies were attacked. Fake votes were recorded for the National Assembly, where the intent was to deprive the PTI of its overwhelming landslide 2/3 majority in the National Assembly. You see this ridiculous record. So the Commonwealth report has brought this out very well. And this is now there for anybody to go and verify with the record posted by the Election Commission at its website. This completely denudes this election of any legitimacy, any credibility. The government that has been created since then is a government without the mandate of the people. The parliament that has come into existence is a parliament that does not represent the will of the people. And the first law that this fraudulently elected parliament enacted was an amendment to the Election Act of 2017. And what was that amendment? On the 8th of February 2024, the Election Act 2017 said that after the election, all election disputes, like the ones that are now staring at us, would be decided by serving High Court judges acting as election tribunals. Now, the first law that this Assembly created as a result of this rigging passes is to say that the election tribunals will consist not just of serving High Court judges, but also such retired judges as the Election Commission may in its discretion appoint. This is the amendment immediately made, and the clear intent was to obstruct the path to justice, to obstruct the expose or the exposition of the fraud that had taken place. And what the Election Commission then proceeded to do was, it appointed persons who were PCO judges. Under General Musharraf's emergency in 2007, certain people were appointed judges and they were asked to take an oath under the then provisional constitutional order, which said that these judges would remain faithful to the person of Pervez Musharraf. Now, this provisional constitution order was subsequently declared void and a nullity by the Supreme Court of Pakistan, and these persons who had taken oath under the PCO to become judges were declared to never have been judges. The judgment of 2009 of the Supreme Court of Pakistan says that these persons who took oath under the PCO shall not be considered for any purpose whatsoever to have been judges of the High Court. They will not be allowed to use the word Justice Retired with their names because they took oath under an illegal instrument, again, under an instrument that constituted a subversion of the Constitution. So what the Election Commission has done is it has chosen those very people to become election tribunals. And since then, since 2024, a very large number of election petitions were filed by PTI candidates who had been defrauded. Those petitions have either not progressed, particularly in the province of Punjab, but also in Karachi, where the record shows PTI won 20 out of 21 National Assembly seats in Karachi. And this report points out that one of the seats taken away from the PTI and given to the Jamaat-e-Islami, Hafiz Naeem-ur-Rahman, on that seat, Hafiz Naeem-ur-Rahman conceded that this was a rigged election and he had in fact not won that election, and he refused to take oath for the National Assembly even though the Election Commission had declared him a returned candidate. So what the Commonwealth report is pointing out is that the fraud was so obvious and pervasive that nobody really could have gone along with it in good conscience. And people with the slightest level of good conscience, like Hafiz Naeem of the Jamaat-e-Islami, refused to accept this election even though the rigged result was in his favor. So this has all come out in this report. Now, the question that arises with respect to this report and with respect to the conduct of the Commonwealth is the suppression of this report. We have now documents available, and this report testifies to the fact that it was completed, signed by each one of the 15 members of the election observation group set up by the Commonwealth on the 20th of November 2024, and it was handed over to the Commonwealth Secretariat. Why was this report not published there and then? Even the November date was a delayed date. Normally, Commonwealth election observation reports are created and published within 3 to 4 months. I'll give you data in a moment. So here, the election happened in February of 2024. The report was compiled in November, was completed in November of 2024, and they say they handed it over to the government. Why was this report only handed over to the fraudulently elected government? It is the responsibility, the duty of the Commonwealth to publish this report for all to examine. So they sat on this report and they're still sitting on this report. This has been leaked and they have now been forced to accept that this is indeed the report that the Commonwealth Election Group had prepared. So we raised that question, and I was noticing today in the UK press, this question has been raised. The Daily Telegraph today has run a story on this. This is a scandal in its own right. The Commonwealth sitting on a report that discloses such pervasive election rigging that completely denudes the authority, the legitimacy of Parliament and of government in Pakistan. And yet, despite this report having been completed, the Commonwealth has till now not officially released this report. So we ask why. Now, the data that I've been able to pull out somewhat quickly today, and since yesterday, reveals that there was an election report prepared by a Commonwealth observation group with respect to the elections in Trinidad and Tobago on the 28th of April 2025. That report was, the final report was published within 4 months. So the election took place on the 28th of April 2025. The report was published within 4 months. Similarly, there was a presidential election in Sri Lanka on the 21st of September 2024. That report was published within 2 months. Then there was a general election in Ghana on the 7th of December 2024. That report was published by the Commonwealth within 3 months. So the question then arises Why was this report treated in an unprecedented manner? This has never happened in the 70-year history of the Commonwealth, that an election observation group consisting of independent individuals of very high repute and standing should be allowed to gather dust for now nearly 2 years, in fact more than 2 years. So this raises suspicion, this raises questions, and we hope the Commonwealth Institute will make amends, will review its conduct, and will come out and apologize to the Commonwealth, to the citizens of the entire Commonwealth, and to the citizens of Pakistan for sitting on this report that is of such vital importance. And we call upon the European Union, the EU, to also release the report that they have prepared. So there is a report prepared by the EU which has also been submitted to the government of Pakistan. Why are these reports being held from the people of Pakistan? We call upon the so-called government of Pakistan to release these reports as well. This is the right of the people of Pakistan to know what happened, what was done to their mandate. Article 19A of the Constitution of Pakistan makes information a fundamental right of every Pakistani. This is vital information which is lying with the state of Pakistan, with the government, the so-called government of Pakistan, and is being withheld from the people of Pakistan. So this is where we are today. So the PTI has consistently put its case to the people of Pakistan, and the people of Pakistan have all along known what their mandate was, who they voted for, and how that mandate was stolen. This was the most egregious assault on the electoral process in the history of Pakistan. And yet, the so-called government carries on. And yet it seems it has the support of international institutions like the Commonwealth that are playing an active part in suppressing reality and suppressing the truth. So we ask all international observers who observed the election, in particular the Commonwealth and the EU, to not sit on these reports. We call upon the state of Pakistan, all authorities within the state of Pakistan, to confront reality, to confront the truth. Let the people of Pakistan know what the truth is, and this is a truth that they voted for. They know what the truth is. I see young people every day who come to me crying, people who are 20 years old, 21 years old, who had voted for the first time on the 8th of February